Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Racquel, and if you're new here, welcome. Today, I just wanted to discuss quickly some tips and tricks for introverts who need a little bit more help in the social arena. I recently came across the book. I actually got it in business school. I was digging through some things and I found this, and it just has a lot of helpful tips in here. I think I was given this book from the dean of the business school, but in it, it just has a lot of helpful tips on how to be a leader, how to be a more friendlier person, how to stop worrying so much. Dale Carnegie has a bunch of books actually that were bestsellers. So, with this in mind, I just wanted to give a few helpful tips. Technically, I'm an introvert. I like my alone time. I don't mind my alone time. I can sit in the peace and quiet and have a bunch of things going on in my mind, but I don't necessarily need like the white noise or anything like that. So I'm an introvert, but I went to business school. If you know anything about business school, it's all about collaboration, teamwork, presentations, sales pitches, and all of that jazz, depending on what your degree was. I did management information systems as well as business management, and I did entrepreneurship. So I had a bunch of things going on there. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'm not going to lie. I ended up going back to school later on. I'm saying all that to say that technically I'm an introvert, but I've had to learn to socialize being an extrovert, because if you know anything about business, it's about really who you know, not necessarily what you know. I've learned a few things about, just how to talk to people, although I don't always use these tips in my own life because my life is a little bit different. Now, it's a lot different, actually. I've grown in a lot of different areas, and I don't really care for the need to impress people as much as I used to. So I'm a little bit more toned down and not as nervous and excited about, being in front of people. And if you've gone to business school, you might know what I mean. Or if you're type A personality and you just want to be a super achiever or something, you might know what I mean. In business school, I was leading activities, I was leading student groups. Um, I was a resident assistant for a short period of time. So I had some experience in leadership. I actually won a leadership award and the management award when I graduated. I just want to give you some tips and trick out of this little beat up little book that is actually really good. I have his book, how to is it how to what is it? It's one here somewhere. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I do have that book, and I read it twice. And it's a good book. I read it because I was in business school. But it's very helpful information. So if you don't know this information, you're an introvert, or you're someone who's struggling to make friends as an adult or as a teenager, as a young woman or young man, it's just for anybody. This video is for you. So I'm just going to go right into the tips. I'll put a disclaimer here to say these tips are more like business etiquette tips for introvert or social etiquette for introverts. So it's not technically how you would handle your interpersonal relationship with like your family or people you know very well. This is more of, getting to know someone like right out the bat. The first tip is not to criticize, condemn, or complain, especially when you're just getting to know someone. I would add in this to not be a know-it-all. Know-it-alls have an answer for everything, for every question, every statement. Know-it-alls are just kind of annoying. If you're a know-it-all, you probably heard that you're probably a know-it-all, or you just think you know everything or something like that. If you're this type of person, you really just want people to know the right thing or know what's, true, like facts. But sometimes just getting to know someone, especially in social interactions, it can come off as demeaning or that you're placing yourself higher. And this also goes into like how a person looks as well. Maybe I'll get into that in another video. If you are a person who is like super critical or condemning, or you shouldn't think that, or why would you think that, if you're like asking those type of questions with people that are just getting to know, you can rub people the wrong way pretty quickly, especially criticizing. I know in business etiquette, at least two topics are pretty much off limits. It's politics and religion. There are a few others, but I would say those are the top two, that can go into a whole lot of different emotions and thought processes and all that. But if you want to thrive in your social settings, I would say try not to criticize, condemn, or complain. Also, try not to be a know it all. Tip number two is to give honest appreciation. So if you're in communication with someone and you mention something that gets you excited, or something that you thought was just interesting, you can say that. Sometimes we think of things in our heads and we say, oh, that's pretty cool, or that's interesting. Tell me more about that. So when you have those thoughts in your mind, say them. Give honest appreciation. That can go into complimenting someone's looks as well, appreciating something that they might have on, something that they might have said, bringing up a certain topic, or even complimenting their style of communication. When you're giving honest appreciation, be pretty specific as possible because it makes it more genuine. And it should be genuine. And but give honest appreciation. Tip number three is to be genuinely interested in other people. Communication, from what I learned from Dale Carnegie's book, is basically, make it more about the other person. It's more selfless. You're Make sure that you're trying to get to know the person genuinely. If they bring up something, maybe, tell me more about that. How did you come to that line of thought? Or, you know, just questions, about what they're talking about. And this can actually go for relationships as well. When you're trying to get to know someone romantically, being genuinely interested in what they're interested in and asking them about things that they're interested in is going to make you seem more attractive to them off the bat, because most people in life are pretty self-absorbed. So the more you get a person to talk about themselves, the more they'll want to be around you. Make it very personable, be genuinely interested. I'll tell something that I'm not really proud of, and how this applied to my life, and how I saw it work in the opposite way. When I was in college, I was leading, I think it was the hall council that I was in at that time. I forgot exactly what I was doing, but we were having an event, and there was this girl there who I knew. We didn't have any classes together, but we did live in the same dorm building, like the building. We didn't have the same area to live in, but we did live in the same, apartment. She, um, wasn't the most popular person, and I wasn't either. I was all about my schoolwork, but she, like, people would talk about her because of, how her weight. They would call her certain names or talk about her behind her back. But I thought she was just a genuine, lovely person. I would say her name, but I'm not going to. But I can remember one time when we were at this council and she came over and she was talking to me, but I had gotten something on my phone, like a text message or something, and I was texting and talking to her at the same time. So I was just like on the phone, and she's talking to me. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, no, 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 no. And I'm just looking at my phone most of the time because whatever it was, I was waiting for it, to get some feedback for something. But she was talking to me, and I was talking to her, but I was mainly looking at my phone. And I don't know. It is a spiritual thing, but I can almost feel her self-esteem like going down or something. Like, even though she was still happy and talking and stuff, and I would like make eye contact. I was making eye contact with her. Oh yeah, yeah, that kind of thing. I could still feel that she. I don't know. I felt like I was making her feel bad, um, in that moment, and I'll never forget that moment. I don't exactly know how I how I got that, because there was nothing in her demeanor that really changed. She was still talking to me. She did like shift body movements or something, but it wasn't obvious that I was making her feel bad, but I can sense that me being on my phone and paying more attention to my phone than her was making her feel bad. That's what I got from that situation. And it's a little bit weird, but the impression that I got in my soul, oop, the impression that I got in my soul was that um, what I'm doing is, and even though it's subtle, what I'm doing is not good for this person's self-esteem. And so it happened like that, and then I thought about it later, and then I rehearsed it. I'm just like, wow. So I wasn't really genuinely interested in talking to her at that moment, because I had something that I guess at the time I thought needed to be addressed and was more important, but I never forgot that. And so even today now, like I'll leave my phone in areas, and if I'm talking to someone, I'll leave my phone somewhere so I can communicate with whoever is in my presence, just because of that one incident in college. Um, so, just make sure when you're communicating with people that you're really interested, or, you just certain things that you can pick up on that you can make conversation about, but just be genuine about it. Tip number 4 is to smile. Smiling, hey, smiling is just welcoming. I'll add to this. I started working when I was 14 years old. And one of the first things I learned is that, because it was in an office building, make sure you smile at everyone. That's one of the first things I learned working in an office. When you're walking past someone in the hallway, even if it's like a, or, whatever, just make sure you smile and nod, or actually say hello, how are you? That's lower than basic, just smiling at people. So smiling makes people feel good. It makes people feel better. It makes you look more attractive. It makes people want to come over to you. Smile. Tip number 5 is to please, please, please remember people's names. I'm pretty terrible at this. I'll ask someone's name and then ask them again, and I'll still forget. I'm more of I recognize people's faces better than I can remember their names. Remembering people's names will help them feel more connected to you. So whether it's rhyming or repeating the name to yourself, or saying their name when you're getting ready to leave, saying their name, like, all right, see you later, their name. Or if you forgot, just ask their name again. Remembering people's names um, makes people feel special. It's one of those little things that help people feel special. I can't talk today. Tip number 6 is to be a good listener. If you're an introvert, this is probably natural to you, but listening is actually a skill. You may hear people, but are you listening to people? Are you listening? Be an active listener. That is really underlining everything here. When you're communicating with people, just making sure you're listening, you're actively listening. You're not trying to cut people off because you want to say something. Make sure you take in what the person is saying and respond. It seems so simple, but it's actually a skill. So some people are naturally born with it, some others are not. But if you're not great at active listening, you hear something and then you forget what they're saying. Um, Try listening to something with the thought that you'll teach it to someone else. Tip number 7 is to talk in terms of the other person's interest. Like I said earlier, most people are pretty self-absorbed. So if you make someone talk about themselves, in a sense, it helps boost their own self-esteem and makes them want to be around you. That's kind of the psychology behind it. But this listen to all of the tips here. You want to be genuine, you want to smile, you want to learn more about the other person, but I think being genuine is the key point here. When you want to make someone talk about their own interest, it's another way to learn more about them, what their hobbies are. And again, this can go for relationships, what their hobbies are, anything. Um, Talk in terms of what they're interested in, or just ask them what their interests are. Tip number 8 is to make the other person feel important. Showing a person in appreciation, or if they're saying something, if they mention something, or maybe like a word they got at their job, or a recent certificate that they got, or if they went back to school. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. And you don't have to put yourself down to make someone else feel better, but you can actively appreciate and give praise to people for certain things if you sincerely feel like it's something that should be rewarded. Even the small things, you can say, oh, that's great, to boost people's self esteem. You can make them, that's another way of making someone feel important. And also, I would say the number one way is just giving them your undivided attention. That's a big way to make someone feel important. Those are my social, aka business tips for introverts or just anyone who's looking to make new friends. Whatever the case, hopefully you got something from this video. Stay tuned for more topics coming up, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.